Coming up today, the government rolls out an employment assistance program in a bid to minimise the impact of job losses in the nation's shipbuilding industry as it undergoes corporate restructuring. Several lawmakers from across Korea's major political parties find themselves in hot water over a growing nepotism and corruption scandal. First, for the 14th straight year, the US government brands North Korea one of the worst countries in the world for human trafficking. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Friday, July 1st, here in Seoul. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, the Korean government is setting up a special employment support system for people who might lose their jobs during the state-led corporate restructuring of the nation's ailing shipbuilding industry. Korea's big three shipbuilders will not receive any government funds, though. Our Kim Jong-soo starts us off.
The Ministry of Employment and Labor has finally designated Korea's shipbuilding sector as a special employment support industry after a review process of less than 50 days.
The Special Employment Support Program applies to a combined 7,800 companies, which also includes shipbuilding companies and their subcontractors. The program will go into effect starting July 1st for 1 year until June 30th next year.
The shipbuilding sector has been suffering from sluggish demand, low international oil prices, and increasing global competition. The Korea Offshore and Shipbuilding Association have predicted that a maximum 63,000 employees could lose their jobs by the end of next year. But with today's decision, companies and workers in the shipbuilding sector will receive funds to maintain their workforces, as well as money for job training for re-employment and other employment benefits. The support program is worth 750 billion won, or $640 million US, and participant companies will be required to cooperate with a government-directed restructuring program. Missing from the list of beneficiaries are the country's three largest shipbuilders, Hyundai Heavy Industries, Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering, and Samsung Engineering. The labor minister said the three companies all have the capacity to continue their business operations without additional support as of now, and noted that none of them have finished their internal negotiations with their labor unions regarding potential layoffs.
The big three companies are relatively well off compared to the mid-sized companies that are already under court receivership. Also, we think that the big three companies need to agree on a satisfactory self-rescue plan with their labor unions before the government intervenes.
Korea's big three shipbuilders reported losses of 6.4 trillion won, or $5.5 billion US in offshore plants for 2015 alone. The three companies' labor unions have characterized the government's omission as a punishment directed at averting a massive strike the unions have been organizing to protest the possible layoffs. Kim Jong-soo, Arirang News.
Now, President Park Geun-hye has been checking up on how her creative economy and environmental policies are working to help communities around the country. On Thursday, the president visited an eco-friendly town in Gangwon-do province. Song Ji-sun reports.
Hongcheon in Gangwon-do province is Korea's first eco-city and was launched following President Park Geun-hye's ecocity initiative in 2014 to counter climate change and foster new industries in the energy sector. Solar panels are installed on top of the town's sewage treatment facility, and the electricity that's generated is sold to customers out of town, bringing an additional $50,000 US in revenue per year. Even garbage is used as a resource for energy here. The town's food waste and livestock manure are processed to create biomethane without any byproduct smell or pollution generated during the cycle. And residents are even seeking more ways to make use of the energy created from the waste.
In addition to building an eco-friendly town, we want to raise more revenue for individual households while also creating jobs. We're now seeking to use our excess biogas to build a greenhouse, in addition to selling farm compost from the manure.
창조적인 생각을 한다는 건 정말 쉬운 일이 아니에요. 우리나라 전국에도 또 모범 사례가 돼서 터질 좋은 기회를 만드셨고 또 이 마을도 이제 이렇게 자꾸 수익도 창출되면서 환경이 아주 깨끗해지고 이런.
19 counties around Korea are currently in the process of transforming into eco-cities, reducing electricity fees for the residents and boosting green energy use. Seoul is vying to spread the initiative across the country and even export the model overseas. 송지선, Arirang News.
Several Korean lawmakers are under fire for abusing their power. It has created turmoil in the domestic political realm, leading two prominent members of the National Assembly to step down this week after members of their party were accused of nepotism and corruption. Shin Se-min reports.
One after another, Korean lawmakers are finding themselves in hot water for abuse of power allegations less than a month after the 20th National Assembly started work. The first was main opposition Minju Party lawmaker Seo Young-gyo, who last week was discovered to have hired her daughter to work as an intern in her office at the parliament. On Thursday, party leaders asked Seo to resign. 5 additional lawmakers, this time from the ruling Saenuri Party, including Park In-suk and Lee Wan-young, were found to have given jobs to family members. In the wake of the revelations, the ruling party announced Wednesday it is banning its lawmakers from hiring relatives as aides. Floor leader Chung Jin-seok said the party will screen all its lawmakers for questionable hiring practices, including nepotism, while reinforcing the party's ethics code. The issue has brought the ongoing drive of cutting privileges for lawmakers back to the public's attention, with the ruling party members agreeing to toughen guidelines on exempting politicians from being apprehended. Currently, all sitting lawmakers are being protected by the Constitution from being arrested or detained without the consent of the parliament. The minor opposition People's Party is also paying the price for a corruption scandal within its ranks. The party's co-founders, An Chol-soo and Chun Jung-bae, resigned Wednesday to take responsibility for the allegations against 2 of its lawmakers who are accused of forging contracts with PR agencies and receiving tens of thousands of dollars in kickbacks in exchange. The party has vowed to punish the lawmakers and keep the National Assembly from being tainted by corruption in the future. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Another day, another official title for that man behind me, Kim Jong-un. This time he has been named chairman of North Korea's State Affairs Commission. This new body replaces the National Defense Commission as the regime's highest branch of government. Jong-un has the details.
Chairman of the Workers' Party of Korea, chairman of the Central Military Commission, and now chairman of the State Affairs Commission. North Korea held a parliamentary meeting of its Supreme People's Assembly on Wednesday, where Kim Jong-un was given the new title. The young North Korean leader now has 9 titles, including Supreme Commander of the Korean People's Army and Marshal of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, along with secondary titles such as the Supreme Guide and the Son of the World. His father and grandfather also held multiple titles, from President to General Secretary of the Workers' Party. Both titles were effectively retired after their deaths. Kim Jong-un's new title replaces a previous title for the National Defense Commission, which had emphasis on military matters, but the new body encompasses diplomatic and economic matters as well. This has been interpreted as a push for Kim to have authority over all areas of North Korean governance and further consolidate his power. South Korea's Unification Ministry says that although it represents the completion of Kim's restructuring of power, this move doesn't change much. But not everyone agrees.
Previously, the National Defense Commission was run on a military-first policy, but there has now been a normalization of the party, and it looks like he's going to lead in a party-based system. This can be seen as a significant shift.
Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
Now, for the 14th consecutive year, North Korea has been branded one of the worst countries in the world for its human trafficking activities. The 2016 Trafficking in Persons report has listed North Korea in Tier 3, along with 27 other countries, including Myanmar, Iran and Russia. According to the annual report published by the US State Department, Tier 3 is the absolute rock bottom. North Korea has been classified in that category ever since the report was first published back in 2003. The report put South Korea among Tier 1 countries for the 14th straight year, along with the United States, Britain and Germany. The International Monetary Fund says Britain's vote to leave the European Union poses the biggest risk to the global economy. IMF spokesman Jerry Rice called on EU leaders and other policymakers to take decisive actions that could lower the threat. He added that Brexit has created significant uncertainty, particularly in the UK, with repercussions also felt in Europe and in the global economy as well. However, he noted that while Brexit's impact on the financial markets was huge, it wasn't overly chaotic. US media reports that joint action by central banks related to foreign exchange movements is not that urgent at the present time. The Brexit negotiations are expected to be difficult and protracted, as EU leaders say that until Britain formally begins exit proceedings, no talks can begin either formally or informally. The Pentagon has lifted the ban on transgender people serving openly in the military. In a news conference, Defense Secretary Ashton Carter noted the armed services don't want barriers unrelated to a person's qualifications to serve. He added the Defense Department and the military need to make use of all talent possible in order to maintain the highest level of military capacity. With the lifting of the ban, new policies affecting recruiting, medical care, housing and uniforms will be implemented. The RAND Corporation says there are an estimated 2,500 transgender people among the 1.3 million active service members in the US military. About 65 service members seek to make gender transition each year. Now, the Korean government has laid out its 2017 budget proposal for the strategic development of the ICT sector. Compared to last year, it's a minimal increase, but more funds have been allocated for IT projects like artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. Kim Jong with the details.
The government is hoping to set aside more state funding in next year's budget for the development of IT projects seen as vital to the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution. The Ministry of Science, ICT and Future Planning says the R&D budget for sectors such as artificial intelligence-based robots and the Internet of Things will increase by nearly 50% from this year to around $408.8 million US. The budget for sectors related to developing clean energy will increase by more than 30% to $513.7 million. Also, the government's top 10 strategically important key growth sectors, which includes the development of smart cars, drones, and wearable devices, will increase nearly 19% to $940.8 million. The ministry says the extra funds will add to its efforts to boost the local market share for Korean drones to 60% by 2020 from the current 18% as part of its 5-year development plan.
Following a National Science Technology Advisory Panel presided over by President Park Geun-hye in May, 10 government ministries, including the ICT Ministry, participated to devise a plan to foster the local drone industry, with the aim of becoming one of the strongest countries for drone development.
Aside from that, state funding for the development of basic sciences will increase 14.5% to more than $1 billion next year. The biosector will see an 8% increase in state funding to $444 million, while the public safety budget, which covers the response to natural and man-made disasters, will increase nearly 6% to $680.7 million next year. Overall, next year's budget increase is minimal. It's just 0.4% more than this year. The ministry says that's because it's planning to work with other ministries to prevent overlap and will minimize funding for other projects that are not related to the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Well, that's all we have for now on this Friday morning here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. We'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts. Our next scheduled newscast coming up at 10 a.m. Korea time. So until then, goodbye.